If the prison you're in has no bars, no walls, no guards, how would you even know you're trapped? The Archons understood something most spiritual seekers miss. Temptation is primitive, it's loud, it's obvious, but scheduling is invisible. It's the perfect cage because you build it yourself, one appointment at a time, one deadline after another, one productive day after the next. And by the time you realize you haven't had a single unscheduled thought in months, the door has already locked from the inside. Within the Gnostic lens, time itself is not neutral. It is a construct, a tool of the Demiurge to fragment consciousness into manageable, controllable units. The texts suggest that the Archons do not need to tempt you with obvious vices, lust, greed, violence. These are amateur tactics. The true masters of control don't corrupt your desires. They colonize your attention through the one thing you believe you're managing, your time. Every hour blocked, every routine established, every time management system you adopt is another layer of the cage solidifying around your awareness. If this story is touching something in you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. According to these hidden teachings, the Archons discovered early that human consciousness has a fatal vulnerability. It cannot hold sustained attention without structure. Left to its own devices, awareness wanders, questions, explores the edges of reality. This is dangerous to a system built on containment. So they offered humanity a gift, the calendar, the schedule, the notion that time could be divided, organized, optimized. And humanity, grateful for the illusion of control, accepted. What we call time management is actually attention management. And what we think we're managing, we're actually surrendering piece by piece, hour by hour, until there's nothing left that isn't already spoken for. The calendar didn't arrive as a weapon, it arrived as a gift. According to the Gnostic texts, the Demiurge operates through inversion. What appears as liberation is actually the mechanism of control. The division of time into hours, days, weeks, months, and years was presented to humanity as progress, as civilization, as the ability to coordinate and plan. But beneath this benevolent surface lies a more sinister function, the fragmentation of consciousness into predictable, manageable units that prevent sustained awareness from ever taking root. Within this lens, the calendar functions as a control grid. Every segment of time becomes a container, and consciousness, which naturally flows and expands, is forced to compress itself into these artificial boundaries. You wake at a certain hour, not because your body is ready, but because the grid demands it. You work in blocks not because the task requires it, but because the structure insists. You rest on designated days not because you need restoration, but because the system has allocated permission. This is not time management. This is consciousness management. And the Archons, according to these hidden teachings, designed it precisely this way. The text suggests that human awareness, left to its natural rhythm, would move in cycles. Periods of intense focus followed by deep rest. Moments of activity followed by contemplation. This natural flow is dangerous to a system built on extraction. If consciousness were allowed to follow its own rhythm, it would inevitably begin to question, to explore, to seek beyond the material boundaries. So the Archons introduced the calendar, and with it, the notion that time is linear, measurable, and most importantly, scarce. Scarcity breeds urgency. Urgency breeds reaction, and reaction prevents the stillness required for gnosis. Every appointment you keep, every deadline you meet, every schedule you honor is another brick in the invisible prison that keeps your awareness locked in perpetual motion, never pausing long enough to recognize the cage. The Archons don't need to be everywhere. They only need to be in 3 places. According to the Gnostic interpretation, consciousness has 3 predictable windows of vulnerability that repeat daily, and these windows have been weaponized with surgical precision. The first is the morning transition, the moment you wake. Your awareness is emerging from the formless realm of sleep, still malleable, not yet hardened into the patterns of the day. This is when the calendar strikes first. Before you've even opened your eyes fully, the mental inventory begins. What time is it? What's scheduled? What's urgent? What's overdue? The Archons don't need to tempt you with vices in this moment. They simply need to ensure that your first conscious thought is not your own, but a reaction to the grid. Within this lens, the morning routine is not a personal choice, but an archonic installation. You wake at a predetermined hour, not because your body has completed its natural rest cycle, but because the system demands your presence. The shower, the coffee, the commute. Each action follows a script written long before you were born, refined over generations to ensure maximum compliance with minimum resistance. The text suggests that consciousness, when first emerging from sleep, has a brief window where it could choose its own direction, ask its own questions, follow its own rhythm. But the calendar eliminates this window. By the time you're fully awake, you're already late, already behind, already reacting to demands that were scheduled before you even knew what day it was. The second window is the evening collapse. This is when the day's extraction is complete, when your energy has been spent, when your discernment is at its lowest. The Archons know that consciousness in this depleted state seeks only one thing: escape. Not liberation, escape. The difference is critical. Liberation requires awareness, effort, the willingness to confront what binds you. Escape requires only distraction, numbing, the temporary suspension of awareness, and the system provides endless options: screens, substances, mindless consumption, anything that prevents the stillness where real questions might emerge. According to these hidden teachings, the evening is when the Archons harvest what remains of your attention. You gave them your productive hours. Now they take your rest, ensuring that even your recovery time serves their agenda rather than your restoration. The third window is the weekend illusion. This is perhaps the most sophisticated trap. The system grants you free time, and in that granting ensures you never question whether time was ever yours to begin with. The weekend arrives as a reward, a break from the grid, but examine what actually happens. You fill it, frantically, desperately, with plans, activities, social obligations, entertainment, errands, anything to avoid the terrifying possibility of unstructured time. The Archons understand that consciousness, when given a void, will either fill it with distraction or begin to question why the void feels so threatening. Most choose distraction. The text suggests that true free time, time that is genuinely yours, unmapped, unscheduled, unaccounted for, is so rare in modern existence that most people wouldn't recognize it if they had it. And if they did recognize it, they wouldn't know what to do with it except schedule it away. Urgency is not a feeling. It's a weapon. According to the Gnostic interpretation, the Demiurge does not need to chain consciousness directly. He simply needs to keep it moving too fast to notice the chains. This is where urgency enters as the most sophisticated form of spiritual anesthesia. When everything feels urgent, nothing can be examined. When every moment demands immediate response, there is no space for the stillness where real questions emerge. The Archons have perfected this mechanism. They don't prevent you from seeking truth. They simply ensure you never have time to find it. The text suggests that manufactured urgency operates on a simple principle. If consciousness is kept in perpetual reaction mode, it can never enter reflection mode. Every notification, every deadline, every urgent email is not just a demand on your time. It's a disruption of your attention, a fragmentation of your awareness, a guarantee that you will never sit still long enough to ask the questions that threaten the system. The modern world has weaponized urgency to the point where even your rest feels urgent. You must relax efficiently. You must optimize your sleep. You must make the most of your weekend. Even your escape from urgency becomes another urgent task. Within this lens, the antidote to urgency is not efficiency, it's refusal. The Archons cannot function when consciousness refuses to react, when it chooses stillness over speed, when it prioritizes depth over immediacy. But this refusal feels impossible in a world where everything is designed to trigger reaction. Your inbox demands response. Your calendar demands compliance. Your phone demands attention. And beneath all these demands lies the unspoken threat. If you don't keep up, you'll fall behind. If you don't respond immediately, you'll lose opportunity. If you don't stay urgent, you'll become irrelevant. According to these hidden teachings, this is the lie that keeps the prison functioning. The truth is the opposite. Urgency is what makes you irrelevant. It's what keeps you trapped in surface-level existence, never pausing long enough to touch the depth where real transformation occurs. The text suggests a radical practice. Create unmapped time, not free time that you then fill with scheduled activities, but genuinely unmapped time where nothing is predetermined, where no outcome is expected, where consciousness is allowed to move at its own rhythm without external demands. This practice terrifies most people because it exposes how deeply the Archonic schedule has colonized their awareness. When you have genuinely unmapped time, you don't know what to do with it. You feel anxious, restless, guilty. The urgency you thought was external reveals itself as internal. You have internalized the Archonic schedule so completely that you now police yourself, ensuring you never escape the grid even when the opportunity arises. Breaking the temporal loop is not a metaphor, it's a practice. According to the Gnostic interpretation, the Archons maintain control through predictability. If they can predict your next move, they can prepare the next trap. This is why the calendar is so effective. It makes you predictable. You wake at the same time, follow the same routine, respond to the same triggers day after day, until your consciousness becomes a machine running someone else's program. The text suggests that the first act of rebellion is not grand or dramatic. It's small, deliberate, and terrifyingly simple. Create unmapped time. Unmapped time is not free time that you then fill with activities. It's genuinely unstructured time where nothing is predetermined, where no outcome is expected, where consciousness is allowed to move at its own rhythm without external demands. This practice terrifies most people because it exposes how deeply the Archonic schedule has colonized their awareness. When you have genuinely unmapped time, you don't know what to do with it. You feel anxious, restless, guilty. The urgency you thought was external reveals itself as internal. You have internalized the Archonic schedule so completely that you now police yourself, ensuring you never escape the grid even when the opportunity arises. Within this lens, the protocol is specific. Choose one day per week, not the weekend, because weekends are already scheduled as free time and therefore colonized. Choose a weekday. Block 3 hours, no appointments, no tasks, no goals. The only rule, you cannot fill this time with predetermined activities. You cannot plan to read, to exercise, to meditate, to work on a project. You can only be present and allow consciousness to move where it wants to move. This will feel unbearable at first. Your mind will scream with urgency, with guilt, with the sense that you're wasting time. This screaming is the Archonic programming revealing itself. Sit with it, watch it, don't react to it. The text suggests that consciousness, when given genuine freedom, will initially panic. It has been caged for so long that it doesn't remember how to move without bars. But if you maintain the practice, if you protect these unmapped hours week after week, something shifts. The panic subsides, the guilt fades, and in the space that opens, you begin to notice something the Archons cannot tolerate. Your own rhythm. Not the rhythm imposed by the calendar, not the urgency manufactured by deadlines, but the natural flow of your awareness when it's not being constantly interrupted, redirected, and controlled. This rhythm is dangerous to the system because it's unpredictable, and what cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. The cost of staying scheduled is not immediately visible. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic consequences or sudden collapse. Instead, it operates through slow erosion, a gradual diminishment of consciousness that happens so incrementally you don't notice until years have passed, and you can no longer remember what it felt like to have a thought that wasn't already scheduled. According to the Gnostic texts, this is the Archon's most patient strategy. They don't need to destroy your awareness in a single moment. They simply need to ensure it never has space to expand beyond the boundaries they've established. Within this lens, the primary cost is the loss of unpredictability. When your life becomes entirely scheduled, you become entirely predictable. And what is predictable can be controlled, manipulated, harvested. The Archons don't need to guess your next move because your calendar tells them exactly where you'll be, what you'll be doing, what you'll be thinking. This predictability extends beyond your external actions into your internal landscape. Your thoughts follow scheduled patterns. Your emotions arise on cue. Your spiritual seeking happens in designated time blocks, contained and manageable, never threatening the system because it's already been accounted for in the schedule. The text suggests that consciousness, when perpetually scheduled, begins to atrophy. Like a muscle that's never used, your capacity for spontaneous thought, for genuine curiosity, for following a thread of inquiry wherever it leads without concern for time, these abilities weaken and eventually disappear. You become incapable of sustained contemplation because you've trained yourself to think in scheduled blocks. You become incapable of genuine rest because even your rest is scheduled and therefore performed rather than experienced. You become incapable of gnosis because gnosis requires the one thing your schedule can never provide: unmapped time, where consciousness is free to move beyond the boundaries of the material prison. Breaking free requires what the Archons fear most: deliberate temporal rebellion. This is not about rejecting all structure or descending into chaos. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your attention by creating unmapped time, hours, days, eventually entire periods of your life that are not predetermined, not scheduled, not accounted for in any system. The Archons cannot function in unmapped time. Their entire control mechanism depends on predictability, and unmapped time is, by definition, unpredictable. This is where gnosis becomes possible. This is where consciousness, freed from the constant interruption of scheduled demands, can finally expand beyond the material boundaries and touch something the Demiurge cannot contain. According to these hidden teachings, the choice is not between schedule and chaos. It's between remaining a predictable component in the Archonic system or becoming an unpredictable threat to it. The calendar will always be there, offering its illusion of control, its promise of productivity, its guarantee that if you just manage your time correctly, everything will work out. But beneath that promise lies the trap. The more you schedule, the less you exist. The more you optimize, the less you experience. The more you control your time, the more your time controls you. So here's the question the Archons don't want you to ask. What would happen if you stopped scheduling your awakening and simply allowed it to emerge in its own time, in its own way, unmapped and uncontrolled? What would you discover in the silence between appointments, in the space where nothing is planned and everything is possible?